Welcome. So excited to be sharing this amazing space with you. Ed Eisenson, who is the father of my dear, dear friend, Andrea, and who I've had the honor and privilege and joy of parking myself in your home for days at a time and spending time with you and Dee Dee and Andrea. And we share a birthday. So we both just celebrated, which is really lovely. And I want to wish you an incredible birthday and another, should I say your age? Say your age?
If you, sure.
Another 90 years with us. I'm just so happy that I get to see you in 2 days on my way back up north. So thank you for joining me. And I thought of you and wanted to have this amazing conversation with you because you have these incredible stories that you've shared some of when I've gotten the joy of being in your company. And some of them start with the pre-scuba diving life that you had, like underwater, which is just so amazing. And you served in the Defense Department, and you can tell us about it for so many years. When I sit in your backyard and your back deck and every bird that's back there, there's just this beautiful connection with nature. And I thought this would be like the most beautiful conversation to bring this together and share, just you. So thank you. And we were just starting to hear this great story about Memorial Day and what it means to you and who should be celebrated. So tell us what you want about yourself and tell us about how you feel about Memorial Day.
Well, Memorial Day has always been special to me growing up during and right after World War II. Memorial Day is something to be celebrated by all. I mean, we were fortunate to win World War II with our other countries in arms. And it's not just an American holiday talking about Memorial Day for World War II, but so many of our young citizens, male and female, who took part in World War II. Unfortunately, there were a lot of people who lost their lives during that conflict, and it is something to be celebrated, particularly by our country and our democracy, how we prevailed with our allies. We have so much to be thankful for as far as what the war contributed toward our prosperity. The new inventions that came about in medical progress. The turning point in our country was World War II. Many people were serving overseas in Europe and the Pacific, and that old song that maybe most people don't remember, that once you've seen Kyrie, it's tough to come home. So our economy expanded and people were more successful. You had the GI Bill, where a lot of the people who probably could not have afforded to go to universities were able to take part in things like that.
People as heroes, right? I mean, after World War II.
Absolutely. Everybody, male, female, who participated in bringing a successful conclusion to the war is to be considered a hero. People forget about the unfortunates that didn't come home. The people here in our country, we had rationing and you didn't have food and you didn't have gasoline, and everything to some degree was with ration books and you just did without, but you participated in some way, whether you were donating things to scrap drives or anything to enhance the war effort.
Yeah. So, and you were saying that Memorial Day, which started, from what I understand, actually as in honoring the people in the Civil War, in the Union.
Right. It was a long time we've had a Memorial Day. But I love the parades and I used to love the uniforms. And unfortunately, I think we've sort of drifted away from the main cause of that. Not too many people have memories or were young enough or involved. So today it doesn't have quite the same meaning to those of us who remember the actual days themselves when we were in conflict, whether it be wars in the past or more recent wars.
Yeah. And then things changed sort of, but we still honor Memorial Day. I mean, I think that there's been a shift in feelings, especially at the Vietnam War, that, there was a loss of honor for the people who were serving in such a difficult time. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's nice that Memorial Day still, is a federal holiday. There are parades in small towns, and I do think this is a beautiful opportunity to honor those who, whether they were official, as you said, whether they were officially veterans and in the military, or they were giving, they were the families, or they were doing all their parts in helping during the war efforts. So yeah, I love that. Thank you for honoring that. So do you want to introduce yourself and say anything else about you as your history, who you are, and share that before I ask a couple of questions? Tell us about your long journey through working for was it the Department of Defense?
Well, right after college, I was going to be drafted, and I elected to join the Navy. It was, what can I say? Luckily, I just finished college and went down and applied for OCS and was lucky to be accepted, graduated OCS and
Officers Candidate School, right? OCS is Officers Candidate School?
Right. Navy Officers Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island, and volunteered for a number of volunteer programs too. I wanted to be a pilot, but my eyes weren't quite good enough. And luckily,
that's funny. So instead of letting you in the sky, they let you down below.
Right. Well, in college, I was an advanced Air Force ROTC, but unfortunately came down with measles in my junior year, and my eyes changed. And if you weren't 20/20 vision, you were not in the program. They were only taking 20/20. So that was the end of my Air Force ROTC.
Incredible story, given, as a separate issue, given the issue around vaccines and measles these days, that, that really changed your life. And not necessarily, there's always silver linings, but my goodness, that measles took away your dream at that time.
Well, get your shots. In other words, I cringe today when I see about them doing away with certain things like, in your toothpaste, getting the fluoride. I think that measles and all kinds of inoculations are something that should be taken to heart by everyone. But anyway, graduating, I was volunteered and wanted to be a flight backseater in an aircraft, but I volunteered for UDT, EOD, and deep sea diving and all like that. And fortunately or unfortunately, I got selected for deep sea diving. And
just give us a perspective of what deep sea diving included at that time in terms of equipment and expectations, because we all have this fancy scuba gear now, and we saw Jacques Cousteau. I saw him growing up on TV with current sort of equipment, but you have to give us a description because it's a little bit way out there.
Well, I can try, but you have to remember that this is yesteryear we're talking about. I went to deep sea diving school in 1959, and it included hard hat, deep sea diving, and hard hat, the scuba, which was a lot of fun, and what we call Jack Brown, which was very light suits with just a face mask and a line to the top to do inspections and light work and so forth.
You had that big helmet on, but you didn't have a tank. You had a pipe that fed oxygen in?
That's right. You had the great big helmet with the shoes and the belt around your waist. To do any work, to sling a sledgehammer or be heavy, you had to have a big suit like that. And it was the deep sea diving school. I don't know if anyone has ever looked it up on line or Facebook or whatever, but it is the most excruciating, most hard, most difficult school that I can ever tell you about. It is quite consuming and just a lot of hard breaking work that only 2 of us graduated out of a class of about 12 officers. There were a number of Navy men in there with us, and in our graduating class, I think there were something like 12 that started out about, 25 or 30. But anyway, it was quite an experience and loved
Did you have
doing
any
it.
idea what you were in for when you signed up?
Well, I didn't think it would be like that. The grueling swims and so forth, and the amount of physical exertion and labor, difficult to describe. It really was. But anyway, they have a place for the Navy Deep Sea Diving School. For those who are interested, you can look it up and actually see scenes from it and get
I
comment
will.
on people.
I'm going to put them on the show notes of the podcast. So we'll have pictures for everyone. Yeah.
Good. And that way people can tell their own experiences and so forth. But it's quite grueling, and it makes you a better person if you graduate. Even if you don't, you know what you've been through.
Getting through it. So beyond the grueling part, it's been many years, the memories that you carry, I imagine that being so rare at the time to be underwater and deep sea diving, that some of the memories are still vibrant of life underwater that you saw at that time.
Well, luckily, my ship was a fleet tug, which was sort of like an icebreaker. It was a large ship. It was 230 feet long and diesel electric engines. Luckily, during the 4 years that I was diving off the ship, we were assigned each spring, January, February, March, April, to Operation Springboard down in Cuba, off of Guantanamo. And we exercised with other ships to perform their assigned duties and so forth. And during the time we were there, when we were not actually working, we were able to dive in the different islands down in the Caribbean using scuba. And it's just like you see in the movies. It's just beautiful diving among the reefs and the fish, and just such a out of mind experience. It's just gorgeous. But you have to remember that these people who do the filming and so forth down on the reefs and so forth, they have lights and all kinds of good. But if you're just diving with scuba gear, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful, it's quiet, except for the breathing apparatus. It's colorful and it's just amazing. Snorkeling is great, but using scuba gear really is the frosting on the cake.
Yeah. I mean, I learned to scuba dive and I got certified when I was in my 20s, and just went a few times because I ended up meeting my husband, and it wasn't something that he was that interested in. So we found other things to do. And now I've snorkeled, and I want to ask you one question. Did you keep going on after you did the 4 years? Did you continue? Did you stay down there? And have you seen a difference between how much life there is down there versus over the years?
No, after I got out of the Navy, I dove a little bit in Japan. We were stationed in Japan, but I can tell you that they have severely diminished on tours that we took to Mexico and Cancun. The little bit of diving I did do, it doesn't seem to be teeming as much as it used to. I find the fish are smaller, and it's not as it used to be back in the 30s and 40s. So the world has changed, and so has diving, in the sense of what you see. From what I read and see on TV, unfortunately, the reefs and so forth are scaling back. There seems to be the global warming, and times have changed, but still, diving is beautiful, and I wouldn't let that detract anyone, because it's still beautiful out there.
Yeah, it's magical. And as you said, just an unbelievable bit of wonder that just is beyond imagination, right? To be in a different world.
It is.
Yeah. So tell me, just share some other stories that come to mind that connect you, because I know you're just a nature lover, and that you've got these connections with these birds in your backyard. And I think there's been a lot of years in between that you've got other great stories to tell. So do you want to share, like, whether it's related to your military service or not, just what stories are coming to mind?
Well, I don't have anything in particular. As far as I'm concerned, just my upbringing. I grew up in a very small town in Panama City, Florida, up on the Gulf Coast. And just looking back, nature-wise, we used to have hundreds of thousands of ducks flying over and landing in the bayous and lakes and so forth there. And I was able to swim in the Gulf of Mexico and St. Andrews Bay, which was a large natural bay where we were. And we had rivers and creeks and so forth that my friends and I used to swim in, and I loved to swim.
It wasn't that much of a surprise for you to volunteer to be a deep sea diver.
Well, like I say, that was one of the things. I loved to swim, and it sort of, I worked in summer camps as head of the, what do you call it? I was head lifeguard at the University of Florida pool when I was in college, and in charge of the waterfronts at different camps up in Georgia and North Carolina. So water, I just love swimming. Swimming was one of my basic growing up things, mainly because of where I was born. Yeah.
The access to it. Yeah. It's funny that you ended up joining the Air Force ROTC and wanting to be in the sky instead of underwater then.
Well, it was interesting, and we didn't have much choice. Military was required back then. If you didn't, the draft was effective. I can't think of the word right now. My goodness. Yeah, you had to go. You get your draft notice, and if you get your draft notice, you were automatically in the Army. And I wanted to choose.
It gave you choice. If you sign up, you get choice.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. But you chose the Air Force.
Well, they only had Air Force ROTC or Army ROTC.
Okay, that's
in college, you had to take what was available in the curriculum, and it was only those two. And Air Force was my choice. But since I didn't get drafted, I was able to, after graduation, join the Navy.
That's awesome. So can you think of a story to share for us of, given you're growing up in this deep experience, connection with nature and water, and then spending these years underwater, even though you were working really hard? What comes to mind? Like, what have you learned? Like, what were you wowed by, and what do you think you might have learned from watching other non-humans, more than human species around you?
Oh my goodness, that's such a big encompassing question. I really don't know how to answer that. I enjoyed doing what I was doing, and things just seem to follow. You're either lucky in the life you pursue, and I was always excited to try to do something different and volunteer outside of the scope of what I thought was best for me. And because of that, trying to be...
Wait, I have to stop you because that was such a good line. Like, that was such a good lesson for everybody. You tried to get to volunteer for things that were, I think you were saying, uncomfortable.
Well,
new and adventure and high growth and all that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, it's just like one of my daughters who graduated school, and she got a job, and after a year or two, she came back and said, is this all there is? I mean, do I just go to work and come home? And she felt that there was something else out there. And there is something else out there. When you feel you're in a rut and so you need something else to do, you have to try something new and different, and something, even though it might be uncomfortable for a while, you can adapt to it and adjust it so that if it is uncomfortable, you find something else. But life to me was good. A bowl of cherries. I really have had a charmed life. Some of it wasn't so charming, but basically I feel I'm just a lucky guy, and I was able to take advantage of what was available to me, and thank goodness it all worked out.
It's the definition of resilience and optimism and positivity to take a life of such a long, beautiful life that had really hard stuff. There's life didn't just, it was a bowl of cherries because you think of it that way. Like, I'm the same as you. I see the bowl of cherries. I don't see the pits. But there were a lot of pits along the way that you got through and made you stronger. My whole thing is resilience, and you just exude this beautiful approach to life that no matter how you look back, it's not about regret. It's about all the joys and all the tough stuff that you took on and succeeded in. And seeing that through the eyes of your two daughters too, and your beautiful wife. So give us one animal story, one or some nature story. Maybe it's a plant, maybe it's fungus, maybe it's some connection that you've made. Maybe it's one of the birds in your backyard. Although you've moved, so do you have new birds in your backyard here that you've connected with?
Well, no birds. A couple of geese fly over every once in a while, honking in the backyard, so to speak.
They're saying,
yeah. It is heartwarming. My wife and I both have loved nature and tried to travel and take in as much of it as we can. That's all I can say for where we are right now, Jessica.
Yeah. Do you have one animal that you remember that you named and had a connection with, or you didn't name but you had a connection with, a story that you can share?
Not particularly. As a young guy, I always had dogs. I had, oh my goodness, I couldn't tell you how many dogs. That played a significant part in our first daughter's life. We had a dog when we were assigned in Japan that was just magnificent, a black lab that I considered another child to take care of. And she and my daughter grew up together for the first 5 years of her life almost. And it was just a very obedient, beautiful dog. And I've loved dogs. That's as close as I can get to a personal story. But traveling as much as we did subsequently, we were not able to have any more animals. But
it sounds like you grew up with them, and then you had this 5 years of joy. I heard those stories actually about that incredible dog. I think you went to Italy next, so you couldn't bring the dog, right?
Right. We were in Japan, and after we left Japan, they had a law where you could not bring a dog back into the States from Japan. It had to remain in Hawaii for 6 months. And
I'm in a dog's life.
Not just a dog's life. That's a long time, plus the expense and so forth.
Yeah.
But we had a good friend, a Catholic priest there in Japan, and he took it to the orphanage that he was in charge of. And for many years, wrote us letters about how the dog was faring and how much the children there loved him and what a good dog he was and how much they appreciated the dog there in the orphanage.
It's such a beautiful story, such a deep connection that just kept being maintained. And you still, many, many years later, I can see the warmth and the connection that you have with this beautiful friend that you had, your third daughter. Although at the time it was your second daughter. So lovely. So some final words of wisdom from someone who's seen so much, and to honor Memorial Day and to honor nature and to honor you. What do you got for us? Nothing except enjoy life, accept it as you get it. If you can change it, if you think you need to change it to do something better, don't hesitate. To hesitate means you're going to go through something that is not your, in best interest or what you feel is your ideal. Take a chance, enjoy it, and reflect. Live to the fullest. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Ed, so much. I'm so excited to see you in a couple of days. Thanks, Jessica. Bye.
This has been a production of BLI Studios, produced by me, Kai. Follow along with our other BLI produced shows at balancinglifesissues.com/podcast-BLI. Got an idea for the show? Email me, Kai, at balancinglifesissues.com. And don't forget to stay in touch with your host, Jessica, at jessica@winwinwinmindset.com. Anything else to add, Miles?
Yeah.